This video covers controversial conspiracy theories for entertainment only. Timestamps are provided, and you can find the link to my new React channel down below. Enjoy the video.
The fascinating concept known as closing the gaps emerged from a peculiar pattern woven throughout scientific history. In humanity's earliest days, natural phenomena were attributed to divine intervention, with lightning seen as Zeus's wrath and earthquakes interpreted as battles between gods. But something strange happened as science began uncovering natural explanations for these events. Accounts describe an intriguing shift that occurred around Benjamin Franklin's groundbreaking lightning rod experiments. Before his work, lightning strikes appeared to follow no discernible pattern, striking with unpredictable intensity. Yet after Franklin mapped out the electrical nature of lightning, these powerful bolts began conforming precisely to his newly established principles. Observations indicate this wasn't an isolated incident. Ancient testimonies from credible witnesses detail extraordinary weather phenomena that seem to defy physical laws, schools of fish falling from clear skies, blood-red atmospheric conditions, and storms that behaved in impossible ways. Yet once meteorology established a framework for understanding weather systems, these inexplicable events became increasingly rare. Analysis of the data suggests an unsettling possibility. When humans successfully identify and document natural laws, reality appears compelled to align with these discoveries. Much like the famous double-slit experiment, where particles exist in multiple states until observed, researchers propose that reality itself once possessed this fluid quality, taking various forms until human observation and understanding locked it into specific patterns. Examination of historical records reveals this standardization of natural law continues to accelerate. As science fills in gaps in our understanding, reality's behavior grows increasingly predictable and mechanistic. Those wild, mythical occurrences from our past gradually fade into legend, replaced by the rigid physics we now recognize and comprehend. The concept of artifice obliteration first emerged from ancient texts, describing objects that somehow endured through multiple cycles of human civilization. Our investigation revealed these artifacts reportedly possessed capabilities far beyond current technology, ranging from seemingly simple tools to devices with civilization-altering potential. These discoveries suggest we may not be the first advanced society to inhabit Earth. Field observations indicate the existence of concealed vaults worldwide, reportedly guarded by secretive organizations dedicated to either preserving or destroying these relics. Historical accounts describe specialized teams equipped with unusual gear and mysterious methods tracking these artifacts, frequently disappearing along with their discoveries. Analysis of the data suggests unusual energy signatures emanating from isolated locations correlate with ancient descriptions of these objects. Witness testimonies mention that those who encountered these artifacts observed them operating on principles that defied conventional physics. Archived materials point to a clandestine network of facilities constructed specifically to contain or dismantle these items. While their techniques remain obscured, compiled reports demonstrate observers repeatedly describing impossible lights and sounds near these locations. Most investigations into these mysteries yield nothing concrete. Yet periodically, someone uncovers an object that functions in ways modern science cannot explain, only to have it vanish shortly afterward, along with any evidence of its existence. The concept of aura imbuement emerged from observations that media and technology create invisible energy fields, much like the biological auras believed to emanate from living creatures. These frequencies, our investigation revealed, may influence human consciousness without direct contact, similar to how radio waves pass through solid walls. Field observations indicate an intriguing discovery from the 1970s. Certain broadcast frequencies perfectly matched human brainwave patterns. This finding led researchers to consider whether mass media could unknowingly shape the behavior of entire populations. Examination of sites near radio towers uncovered peculiar electromagnetic readings that defied known broadcast patterns. Witness testimonies mention unexplained mood shifts and strange sensations experienced by individuals in proximity to large transmission towers, even during periods of supposed inactivity. These effects appeared most pronounced around AM radio frequencies, which demonstrate superior penetration through buildings and soil compared to FM or television signals. Historical accounts describe how ancient civilizations worldwide constructed structures that amplified Earth's natural frequencies, suggesting our ancestors possessed a deeper understanding of these invisible forces than contemporary society. Modern research using Kirlian photography claims to capture distinct energy signatures surrounding speakers playing various musical compositions. Archived materials point to military interest in utilizing broadcast frequencies as non-lethal weapons, lending credence to the theory that transmitted energy influences more than electronic devices. Analysis of experimental data suggests that even basic recorded sounds could alter plant growth patterns and affect water crystallization. Feral auras were derived from ancient mystical traditions studying human energy fields, particularly their malleability during childhood. Our investigation revealed that children discovered living among animals underwent transformations beyond mere behavior. Their very electromagnetic and bioelectric signatures shifted in remarkable ways. Historical accounts describe fascinating discoveries in India, where Kirlian photography captured unusual energy patterns from feral children. Their oral signatures bore striking similarities to wolves rather than humans, persisting long after their return to civilization. Field observations indicate these children developed extraordinary sensitivities. They could anticipate shifts in weather patterns, interpret animal behavior, and perceive natural phenomena that typically elude human detection. During sleep studies, their brainwave patterns matched those of wild animals instead of normal human sleep cycles. Witness testimonies mention their unique ability to form deeper connections with animals than humans. In numerous cases, these children appeared to communicate with wildlife through unspoken means. Perhaps most intriguingly, they demonstrated an uncanny ability to sense approaching natural disasters hours before they occurred. Analysis of the data suggests these transformations become permanent, a spiritual metamorphosis that cannot be reversed. Modern monitoring equipment has detected inexplicable electromagnetic fluctuations surrounding these individuals, particularly during emotional peaks or animal encounters. Examination of the sites reveals their auras generate significant technological interference, disrupting nearby electronic devices. Their mere presence causes compasses to behave erratically and sensors to fail, mirroring the electromagnetic disturbances produced by certain wildlife species. The fascinating theory of soul allocation came from studies of human consciousness throughout history. Field observations indicate that ancient civilizations produced individuals of extraordinary willpower and spiritual prowess, their remarkable feats of mind and body documented across historical texts. Our investigation revealed a crucial turning point in the 1800s, when the rise of widespread spiritual practices and meditation coincided with what many perceived as a weakening of individual human potential. This transformation aligned precisely with the industrial era's first major population surge. Analysis of the data suggests a clear pattern. Documented cases of psychic phenomena and mystical experiences have steadily declined over the past 2 centuries, diminishing in direct proportion to population growth. Historical accounts describe medieval times filled with regular spiritual encounters, in stark contrast to the rarity of such experiences today. Examination of ancient Buddhist texts uncovers warnings about what they called the Great Dilution, a future age when humanity's numbers would grow so vast that the divine spark within each person would fade to a mere flicker. These manuscripts speak of a time when souls, spread impossibly thin, would drive people to seek technological connection to fill their spiritual void. Archived materials point to signs of this cosmic thinning in contemporary life: rising anxiety, deepening depression, and an intense yearning for group identity. Through this lens, modern social movements and mass ideologies appear as fragments of souls instinctively seeking reunion with their separated pieces, filling the vacuum where individual purpose once dwelled. The concept of supernatural guidance emerges time and again throughout human history as we explore the origins of our advancement. Through millennia, sacred manuscripts across civilizations speak of ethereal beings bestowing knowledge upon select humans. Take the Book of Enoch, where celestial entities taught our ancestors the secrets of metal craft, beauty enhancement, and martial prowess. Field observations indicate peculiar jumps in human achievement that seem to materialize without clear evolutionary steps. Consider how humanity progressed from basic powered flight to walking on lunar soil in merely 66 years. Analysis of technological advancement suggests similar anomalies, like our leap from room-filling computing machines to pocket-sized digital worlds within a few decades. Historical accounts describe a curious pattern within groundbreaking patents and academic papers. Many pioneering minds report receiving their insights through dreams or sudden flashes of inspiration. Tesla experienced his AC motor design through a vivid vision, while Einstein's theory of relativity sparked during a thought experiment about racing alongside light itself. Certain texts hold eerie connections to sudden technological leaps. Take the Voynich manuscript, an enigma packed with advanced botanical and astronomical knowledge from the 15th century. Its true purpose remains unknown, but some theorists suggest such writings might be more than mere records, perhaps subtle channels through which otherworldly forces guide human advancement. Archived materials point to striking parallels between ancient accounts of divine knowledge and contemporary reports of scientific revelation. Both describe an instantaneous influx of intricate information, typically paired with powerful imagery and a compelling drive to share these discoveries. Throughout time, creative minds and scientific pioneers have labeled this phenomenon the Muse, perhaps a more palatable name for something far more extraordinary. In exploring the Transcendental Conflict theory, we uncover a world where modern power struggles unfold entirely through hidden manipulation of culture and public thought. Our investigation revealed that major media conglomerates, entertainment companies, and news outlets serve as pawns in an elaborate chess game between unseen players. Historical accounts describe suspicious patterns in the ebb and flow of cultural movements, often aligning precisely with shifts in economic or political power. Field observations indicate that the timing of viral trends, sudden cultural shifts, and the meteoric rise of certain public figures follows patterns too precise to be coincidental. Examination of competing media narratives traces them back to the same handful of private organizations, suggesting these conflicts are orchestrated rather than organic. These shadow puppeteers, as some call them, appear to manufacture both social movements and their opposition, maintaining control through calculated division. Archived materials point to numerous seemingly grassroots campaigns, sharing remarkably similar funding sources, marketing strategies, and launch timing, as if responding to an invisible conductor's baton. The evidence demonstrates how entire populations can rapidly swing between opposing viewpoints when skillfully influenced. Analysis of films, music, and entertainment reveals them as potential weapons in this shadow war, subtly pushing specific worldviews at critical moments. Those who study these patterns note how cultural products emerge in strategic clusters, carefully timed to shape public consciousness around pivotal events. Compiled reports demonstrate that corporate mergers, policy changes, and market crashes might be merely the visible aftermath of these hidden battles, while the true victors remain concealed. What the public witnesses are merely ripples on the surface, while the real conflict unfolds through the calculated manipulation of mass psychology. The concept of artificial soul ascension emerges as a fascinating intersection where cutting-edge technology meets ancient spiritual wisdom. This unusual approach builds on traditional Eastern concepts of chakra points and energy meridians, proposing that these spiritual centers can be enhanced through synthetic methods. Our investigation revealed groundbreaking experiments from the 1960s where scientists applied basic electrical stimulation to meditation points. Their findings documented unexpected surges in brain activity that perfectly mirrored patterns typically seen only in profound spiritual states. Historical accounts describe a series of tech startups that discreetly sought patents for what they termed bio-spiritual enhancement devices as the 2000s drew to a close. These sophisticated machines were designed to interact with the body's natural energy fields, strengthening them through carefully calibrated frequency patterns. Field observations indicate the rise of a unique group known as tech monks, who take this practice further by embedding miniature devices near traditional acupuncture points. These individuals consistently describe experiencing deeper meditative states, encountering vivid visions, and feeling an enhanced connection to universal energy. Analysis of the data suggests measurable impacts among those using these spiritual tech aids, including distinct changes in brainwave patterns and stronger electromagnetic fields surrounding their bodies. While skeptics dismiss these findings as elaborate placebo effects, advocates view them as concrete evidence of artificially enhanced spiritual capabilities. Archived materials point to this practice expanding into broader spiritual territories. Some practitioners report achieving success with technology-enhanced third eye implants for remote viewing experiences, while others describe forming more powerful connections to what they characterize as higher dimensional planes. The disturbing theory known as experiment after effects draws an unsettling connection between the historical persecution of the Cagots and possible hidden societal manipulation. For nearly 1,000 years, this European minority group endured brutal discrimination, yet curiously, no historical documents explain the original cause of their outcast status. Historical accounts describe their treatment in ways that eerily mirror modern social experiments, from strictly enforced isolation to the mandatory marking of their dwellings. Analysis of genetic data suggests something even more troubling. The Cagots carried distinct genetic markers separating them from surrounding populations, hinting at deliberate population control measures. Field observations indicate their settlements followed a peculiar pattern across France and Spain, resembling the distribution of controlled test groups. Their abrupt appearance in medieval records raises questions about orchestrated placement within existing communities. Examination of historical evidence reveals the Cagots maintained sophisticated technical abilities, particularly excelling in carpentry and metalwork, despite facing intense persecution. This specialized knowledge base suggests they received structured training before their integration, a pattern commonly seen in social engineering projects. Archived materials point to disturbing containment protocols. Medieval authorities strictly prohibited Cagots from walking barefoot on public ground and forced them to use separate church entrances. Their tools and belongings required specific markings, creating what resembles a trackable inventory system similar to modern research methodology. Perhaps most revealing are the compiled reports, which highlight two baffling phenomena: the total erasure of Kaga origins and their continued existence as a distinct group despite centuries of efforts to assimilate them. Their population remained remarkably stable across regions, hinting at controlled reproduction, a chilling indicator of prolonged human experimentation. The discovery of pelagic pathways emerged from the shadows of classified deep-sea research during the 1960s. Our investigation revealed a puzzling trend. Several leading oceanographic institutions abruptly abandoned their promising underwater habitat projects, despite having both abundant funding and initial success. Examination of the sites unveils an intriguing pattern. Each research location was strategically positioned above major oceanic trenches and underwater cave systems. When mapped, these abandoned facilities formed a distinct geometric arrangement, hinting at a systematic search rather than typical scientific sampling. Field observations indicate the presence of massive hollow chambers beneath the ocean floor, detected through advanced sonar readings. These chambers exhibited unexplained temperature fluctuations and electromagnetic disturbances. Scientists working on these projects consistently reported equipment failures and mysterious gaps in their data when reaching certain depths. Archived materials point to disturbing findings from a recovered research vessel's log. The crew documented biological luminescence in impossible patterns and structures that shouldn't exist at these pressures. 3 days after recording these observations, both ship and crew vanished without a trace. Analysis of leaked internal memos suggests these projects never truly ended, they simply went dark. military contractors swiftly took control of the facilities, installing sophisticated security systems while maintaining complete radio silence. Even today, unmarked submarines regularly visit these locations, disguised as routine patrol missions. Historical accounts describe how the original scientists were strategically dispersed to institutions around the globe, their research sealed behind classification. Those who attempted to speak out faced swift and devastating career consequences. In a final, ominous paper, one researcher left behind a cryptic warning: "They don't want us finding what's already down there." Records from the 1930s first brought attention to the Agarthan Emissary theory, which suggests Hitler's meteoric rise was linked to an ancient civilization beneath Earth's surface. His documented obsession with occult practices and mysterious expeditions to Tibet pointed to possible contact with these subterranean beings. Historical accounts describe Hitler's deep involvement with the Thule Society, whose members believed in polar gateways leading to an inner Earth. They spoke of advanced beings called Agarthans who selectively shared their knowledge with surface dwellers, explaining humanity's sudden technological leaps. Field observations indicate Hitler's particular fascination with hollow Earth theories, leading him to fund Antarctic expeditions in search of hidden entrances. His unexplained military innovations and strategic insights left many wondering if he possessed knowledge beyond ordinary human capacity. Analysis of recovered documents reveals striking parallels between Hitler's speeches and ancient texts describing Agarthan philosophy, particularly regarding racial supremacy and manifest destiny. His transformation from struggling artist to charismatic leader sparked intense speculation about otherworldly influences. Examination of Nazi archives uncovered maps marking suspected Agarthan entrances throughout Europe and Asia. Those who study this theory point to similar patterns across history. Influential figures who displayed unexplained knowledge, supernatural charm, and dramatic rises to power, suggesting other potential emissaries from this hidden realm. The sin is death theory presents a fascinating connection between human mortality and moral corruption. Our investigation revealed medieval alchemists who held a compelling belief that purer bloodlines carried less spiritual contamination, supposedly granting longer life. Their detailed experimental records show systematic comparisons of blood from various social classes, particularly noting the nobility's extended lifespans, attributed to their claimed divine mandate. Historical accounts describe an intriguing pattern discovered across European monasteries. These religious centers meticulously tracked their monks' lifespans, documenting a remarkable trend. Those who maintained stricter religious observances consistently lived longer than their peers. These observations later became crucial reference materials for occult researchers exploring the relationship between virtue and life force. Examination of ancient texts reveals the significance of Christ's pure blood, preserved within the legendary Holy Grail, representing the ultimate uncorrupted life essence. Archived materials point to elaborate rituals designed to purify blood through religious acts of confession and penance. Some historical documents even claim that successful practitioners exhibited signs of reversed aging. Observations in modern laboratories add an unexpected scientific dimension to this theory. Analysis of the data suggests children's blood contains higher concentrations of regenerative compounds that diminish over time. Certain fringe theorists propose an alternative to natural aging. They attribute this decline to the accumulation of moral transgressions throughout one's life. Archaeological evidence brings physical proof to these historical accounts. Compiled reports demonstrate the existence of specialized blood purification chambers hidden within remote medieval churches. These mysterious spaces featured intricate filtration systems crafted from blessed metals, engineered with one specific purpose: to separate what they called the physical manifestations of sin from the blood itself. The concept of familiar geometry emerged from observations of humanity's peculiar relationship with straight lines and perfect angles. While nature flows with curves and irregular patterns, our constructed world stands in stark contrast, defined by precise edges and calculated spacing that rarely appear in the natural realm. Examination of the natural world reveals an entirely different geometric language. the spiral patterns of shells, the meandering paths of rivers, and the complex fractals repeated throughout organic forms. Yet human construction persistently favors right angles, linear roads, and precise circular forms. Field observations indicate this departure from nature's patterns runs so deep that even prehistoric art displays a preference for clean, straight lines. Historical accounts describe this geometric divide extending into human consciousness itself. Analysis of infant behavior suggests an innate attraction to ordered shapes, manifesting before the development of walking or speech. Compiled reports demonstrate this phenomenon persists even in communities isolated from modern influence, suggesting something more fundamental than learned behavior. Archived materials point to these geometric patterns surfacing in past life accounts. Witness testimonies mention recurring motifs in the memories of those claiming previous deaths. Basic shapes like squares and triangles that mirror contemporary architecture, suggesting memories bleeding through from distant ages. Our investigation revealed that this adherence to sharp-edged design might reflect an ancient origin, perhaps a realm of pure geometry where human consciousness first emerged. This theory could explain humanity's persistent construction of environments that contrast with Earth's organic patterns, as if unconsciously attempting to recreate a long-forgotten geometric homeland. The intriguing concept of prophecy counteraction challenges our fundamental understanding of how fate operates. Historical accounts describe a fascinating pattern. While individuals can alter personal prophecies through awareness, predictions about broader events or other people remain remarkably fixed. Our investigation revealed a compelling paradox. Major historical prophecies, including Nostradamus's predictions and Saint Malachi's papal prophecies, might have unfolded differently had key figures heeded their warnings. Ancient Roman archives point to numerous soothsayers who attempted to warn emperors about the empire's impending collapse, only to find their voices silenced or dismissed. Field observations indicate a striking correlation in prophetic outcomes. When predictions spread widely among the general population, they frequently manifested as foretold. However, prophecies kept within closed circles or shared exclusively with involved parties sometimes failed to materialize. This suggests that carefully controlling prophetic knowledge might hold the key to altering predicted outcomes. Examination of historical records reveals several instances where religious and political leaders successfully averted prophesied downfalls after learning of their predicted fate. Perhaps most compelling is the case of medieval Venice, where the Doge's response to a flooding prophecy led to ambitious engineering projects that preserved the city. Analysis of these patterns suggests a psychological dimension at work. When prophecies become public knowledge, they generate a collective expectation that seems to guide events toward the predicted outcome. Yet when prophecies remain known only to key decision-makers, these individuals can work discreetly to redirect the course of events without drawing attention to the prophecy itself. The phenomenon of borrowed consciousness first emerged through documented cases of individuals sharing identical visions and memories during altered mental states. Field observations indicate that early research into psychedelic experiences uncovered remarkable patterns. Users from entirely separate cultures and historical periods described encountering the same ethereal realms. Historical accounts describe how tribal shamans, with no possibility of contact between their societies, accessed identical spiritual dimensions. Analysis of DMT research suggests these substances might function more like receivers of existing visions rather than generators of random hallucinations, as participants consistently reported meeting the same otherworldly beings and receiving similar sacred knowledge. Examination of meditation-induced states reveals an intriguing parallel. Monks and mystics from vastly different religious traditions described nearly identical cosmic planes and universal truths. Brain imaging data points to a distinctive pattern. Areas associated with personal identity show reduced activity, while regions linked to external perception demonstrate intense activation. These patterns closely align with states observed during both deep meditation and near-death experiences. Our investigation revealed quantum effects within brain cells that could potentially serve as receivers for this theoretical field of shared awareness. Much as a radio captures invisible signals, our minds might naturally filter this cosmic broadcast, with certain substances or states allowing us to tune into the full spectrum of collective memory. Archived materials point to ancient texts across numerous cultures, each describing methods to remember events beyond personal experience and access wisdom beyond their years. Compiled reports demonstrate modern cases of individuals in altered states suddenly displaying complex skills or speaking unknown languages, as if temporarily connecting to this vast shared mental repository. The phenomenon known as voices from the woods suggests an unsettling connection between children and forested areas. Within this darker theory lies a compelling idea that young bodies possess unique organs allowing them to perceive what remains hidden from adult senses. Historical accounts describe a fascinating pattern spanning diverse cultures. Countless instances of children drawn into forests, each describing melodic sounds or beckoning voices. Those who return often seem transformed, sharing tales of mysterious companions invisible to adult eyes. Analysis of medical data suggests something remarkable. Brain scans reveal distinct activation patterns in children near dense woodland areas. These active regions correspond to primitive areas our ancestors once relied upon for survival and sustenance. Field observations indicate a widespread phenomenon. Parents across the globe report their children engaging with unseen companions near forest boundaries. Most striking are the consistent descriptions these children provide about their forest friends, despite having no contact with one another. Examination of ancient texts reveals repeated warnings about children venturing alone into wooded areas. These documents suggest a fascinating possibility that younger humans possess heightened sensory abilities that diminish with age, similar to how infant eyes can distinguish more colors before fully developing. Our investigation into the subject revealed an intriguing contradiction in childhood fears. While most young ones instinctively fear darkness, this anxiety mysteriously dissolves when it comes to shadowy forests. It's as if something within the woods communicates with them through channels adults can no longer access. Compiled reports demonstrate an unsettling trend in cases of missing children. The final sightings often place them approaching wooded areas, displaying unusual serenity or joy, even during weather conditions that would typically drive them indoors. The concept of inverse solipsism, conceptually called unloading, emerges as a fascinating theory proposing that consciousness serves as the fundamental force behind collapsing quantum probability into definite reality. Much like Schrödinger's wilderness, remote locations may exist in a state of suspended possibility until human observation occurs. Investigation revealed an intriguing pattern. Areas untouched by human contact maintain unusually consistent environmental patterns, functioning almost like a preset loop. Field observations indicate this phenomenon clearly in the Australian outback, where weather cycles and wildlife populations showed remarkably little variation until indigenous peoples began regular interactions with these regions. Geological studies uncovered compelling evidence that evolution and significant geological changes tend to accelerate in areas following human settlement. Consider the Galapagos Islands. They remained relatively static for millions of years until human discovery appeared to trigger rapid adaptations among local species. Analysis of quantum physics principles strengthens this theoretical framework. The double-slit experiment demonstrates how particles exist as waves of probability until observed, at which point they manifest as concrete matter. Building on this foundation, researchers suggest that unobserved reality may exist as a field of pure potential, only crystallizing into real events through human engagement. Historical accounts describe a remarkable convergence of ancient wisdom with modern theory. From Buddhist concepts of mind-generated reality to indigenous Australian Dreamtime beliefs, where consciousness shapes the physical world, these cultures developed strikingly similar ideas despite their isolation from one another. Their independent arrival at comparable conclusions suggests they may have observed the same underlying phenomenon through different cultural lenses. When discussing the Islands Beyond Time legend, we encounter one of the most perplexing offshoots of ancient Thule mythology. Our investigation reveals unusual electromagnetic readings in specific Arctic regions that challenge conventional physics, even as most scholars dismiss Thule as mere folklore. Field observations indicate peculiar time dilation effects in these areas. Satellite signals arrive seconds before transmission, while compasses spin erratically without clear cause. These unexplained phenomena align precisely with the location of the mythical island in ancient Norse manuscripts. Historical accounts describe numerous naval expeditions encountering a mysterious vanishing landmass. In one compelling case, logs from an 1847 whaling vessel detail witnessing their sister ship approach what appeared to be a verdant coastline, only to watch both shoreline and vessel dissolve like a mirage. Examination of maritime records uncovers widespread accounts of time slips in northern waters. Sailors report inexplicable gaps of days or weeks in their memories, while their instruments display readings suggesting the vessels existed simultaneously across multiple time periods. Archived materials point to intriguing Inuit oral traditions describing aerial phenomena and unusual visitors long before their time. Their stories speak of strange lights and metal birds preceding aircraft invention by centuries, alongside encounters with people wearing futuristic clothing and speaking of events yet to unfold. Analysis of deep-sea scanning data reveals geometric formations on the ocean floor that researchers suggest could be remnants of advanced structures. These patterns exhibit an otherworldly quality, appearing to shift and transform between successive scans, as if fluctuating through different temporal states. This theory that World War II served as a massive distraction emerges as one of history's most audacious claims about the true nature of this global conflict. We quickly found a curious pattern. Several Nazi research programs mysteriously vanished from official records in the late 1930s, their funding disappearing without explanation, just as Hitler began his aggressive push toward war. Historical accounts describe unusual German expeditions during this period, not to military targets, but to the remote reaches of Antarctica and Tibet. Rather than military officers, these missions were staffed with scientists and researchers specializing in archaeology and physics. Their discoveries remain locked away in classified documents to this day. Field observations indicate that in the months before the war's end, key Nazi scientists received discreet transportation to Argentina and other South American locations. They carried with them crates of research materials that have never been seen again. Even more telling was the quiet immunity granted to these scientists by several Allied nations. Examination of the records shows the Third Reich's fascination with ancient artifacts and unexplained phenomena ran deeper than mere curiosity. Until 1939, specialized units conducting paranormal research received enormous funding, then their records suddenly ceased to exist. Archived materials point to peculiar behavior by the German High Command in the war's final months. Rather than concentrating on military objectives, they poured vast resources into destroying research facilities and relocating personnel. Their actions suggest they prioritized eliminating evidence over winning battles. Analysis of bunkers discovered after the war reveals installations designed to protect something far more precious than weapons or gold. These facilities featured walls constructed with unusual materials and security systems engineered to endure not decades but centuries. Among the stranger phenomena documented in the entertainment industry is method acting syndrome, where performers experience genuine physical transformations through deep character immersion. Historical accounts describe several high-profile cases, including Robert De Niro developing temporary diabetes while gaining weight for his role as Jake LaMotta. In a similar vein, witness testimonies mention Daniel Day-Lewis experiencing phantom limb sensations after his portrayal of a man with cerebral palsy in My Left Foot. Field observations indicate a pattern of lasting physical changes among performers. Heath Ledger struggled with severe insomnia during his time as the Joker in The Dark Knight. Meanwhile, Adrian Brody's extreme weight loss for The Pianist led to documented changes in his immune system. Perhaps most striking was Jamie Foxx's experience. his eyes temporarily stuck shut after extensively keeping them closed to embody Ray Charles. Analysis of the data suggests these effects extend beyond professional actors. Researchers uncovered similar transformations in ordinary people who deeply imagine themselves as others for extended periods. These changes ranged from subtle shifts in posture and movement to more dramatic alterations in metabolism, pain tolerance, and basic motor functions. Examination of scientific literature reveals potential explanations through the mind-body connection. Just as placebos can trigger genuine biological responses through belief alone, intense psychological immersion appears capable of catalyzing real physiological changes. Compiled reports demonstrate the lasting impact of this phenomenon. Many actors required professional therapy to fully disconnect from their characters, struggling with persistent accents, mannerisms, and even chronic conditions that emerged during filming and lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. National Park Cryptid Spawning Grounds introduces a fascinating theory connecting America's protected lands to hidden breeding sites for mysterious creatures. Early records from the 1800s reveal a curious pattern. Whenever settlers attempted to build homes in what would later become Yellowstone, they'd abandon their properties within months, describing strange sounds and massive shapes moving in darkness. Documents from the period show that many national parks were established on ancient Native American forbidden zones, areas marked in petroglyphs with warnings about spirit creatures and dangerous entities. When mapped, these zones correspond remarkably with modern reports of Bigfoot, lake monsters, and other unexplained beings. Witness testimonies mention park rangers following strict protocols for wildlife management that don't match any known animal species. Rangers must report Class K encounters up their chain of command, followed by immediate park closures typically attributed to weather or maintenance issues. Archived materials point to government files where researchers found evidence that parks worldwide close in cycles, with each shutdown lasting exactly 49 days, precisely the time needed to conduct large-scale operations. Following these closures, cryptid sightings decreased dramatically, only gradually increasing again over several years. A leak of Park Service documents in 2019 revealed Population Control Measure 23B, a strategy for managing unconventional fauna using special forces teams and experimental tranquilizers. The measure explicitly mentioned preventing breeding pairs from establishing permanent territories. Analysis of satellite imagery during park closures shows massive temporary structures appearing overnight, accompanied by unusual heat signatures moving in coordinated patterns. These structures completely disappear once parks reopen, leaving no trace behind. The masked life signs theory presents an intriguing explanation for our continued solitude in the cosmos. Our world's abundant life forms could serve as the perfect concealment for extraterrestrial visitors, their biological markers vanishing within Earth's vast tapestry of carbon emissions and life signatures. Analysis of current alien hunting methods shows a strong emphasis on detecting carbon-based patterns and technological signals from distant stars. Yet these very techniques would struggle to identify alien biosignatures right here on Earth, overwhelmed by our planet's rich biological processes. Field observations indicate that even if alien scouts or crashed vessels existed on our world, they would remain virtually undetectable through modern carbon tracking systems. The sheer volume of plant and animal activity creates an impenetrable veil of biological background noise. Historical accounts suggest this same principle might explain our failure to detect alien outposts on other life-bearing worlds. Much like a single leaf disappearing within a vast forest, their biological signatures would merge seamlessly with the native planet's natural emissions. Examination of the evidence points to the possibility that this could be deliberate. Advanced civilizations might specifically select biodiverse worlds as their observation posts, knowing their own life signatures would vanish within the planet's natural biological chorus. In this light, Earth's rich ecosystem transforms from a beacon of life into the perfect vantage point for studying humanity's progression. Memetic virus production centers on shadowy labs engineering thought-based contagions that spread through ideas rather than biology. Historical accounts describe multiple classified facilities worldwide dedicated to studying how beliefs and behaviors transmit between minds like infectious agents. Documents from the period show experiments dating back to the 1950s attempting to isolate viral ideas that could self-replicate through populations. These programs allegedly mapped how certain concepts hook into human psychology, seeking patterns that make thoughts more infectious and harder to resist. Field observations indicate test subjects exposed to engineered memetic patterns showed measurable changes in brain activity, with some developing compulsive urges to share specific phrases or images with others. The effects appeared stronger in people with particular personality traits or cognitive profiles. Examination of the sites reveals advanced memetic engineering aimed at creating targeted thought viruses, ones that would only activate in hosts with specific psychological characteristics. This suggests possible applications for controlling or influencing select groups while leaving others unaffected. Archived materials point to attempts to weaponize these viral ideas into cognitive warheads capable of spreading precise behavioral changes through enemy populations. Some theorize these weapons already exist, hidden in seemingly innocent cultural trends, advertisements, or viral content. As we brought up earlier, witness testimonies mention something called Virus 23, allegedly one of the first successfully engineered memetic agents. Its effects reportedly include intense paranoia about being monitored, leading infected minds to obsessively spread warnings about surveillance to others. The peculiar theory known as Sentience Sonar proposes an intriguing possibility about life's cosmic origins. Advanced alien civilizations, it suggests, may have scattered microscopic scouts throughout the universe in an elaborate game of interstellar hide and seek. Historical accounts describe how this theory mirrors familiar patterns from our own planet, where life spreads its genetic legacy through ingenious methods. Just as dandelion seeds drift on the breeze or coconuts journey across vast oceans, these cosmic pioneers would traverse the stars, though with far greater purpose and design. Field observations indicate a particularly compelling piece of evidence: the surprisingly rapid emergence of life on Earth after our planet's cooling period. This swift appearance, many note, seems almost choreographed, as if microscopic pioneers were simply awaiting the right conditions to spring into action. Analysis of the data suggests these theoretical spacefaring organisms would require extraordinary resilience. Like cosmic messages in bottles, they would need to endure the harsh void between stars while preserving their complex genetic instructions, waiting to wash up on the shores of a suitable world. Perhaps most fascinating of all, examination of the sites reveals an unexpected connection to humanity's present course. Our increasing mastery of space travel, quantum communications, and advanced physics might represent the culmination of an ancient plan, unconsciously constructing the very beacon meant to signal our cosmic ancestors. The concept of mind control algorithms emerged as researchers uncovered hidden patterns that could potentially rewire human consciousness, similar to how computer code reprograms software. Field observations indicate that intelligence agencies explored specific sound frequencies, visual patterns, and linguistic combinations designed to trigger behavioral modifications. Our investigation revealed declassified MK-Ultra files containing references to consciousness programming protocols that bore remarkable similarities to early computer algorithms. Analysis of the data suggests that carefully selected phrases and images could produce measurable alterations in subjects' brainwave patterns. Documents from the period show details of Project Sleepwalker, exposed by a former intelligence operative. This initiative investigated the potential of everyday stimuli, from television static to billboard designs, to embed subconscious directives. Archived materials point to successful development of basic response triggers through precisely calibrated sensory inputs. Witness testimonies mention unusual behavioral changes observed in university study participants exposed to specific light flicker sequences. While these studies were publicly characterized as seizure research, compiled reports demonstrate they may have secretly mapped exploitable weaknesses in human perception. Reports from multiple sources detail how early video game testing unveiled certain screen refresh rates and color combinations that induced trance-like states. These findings fueled speculation that modern media might incorporate hidden code sequences targeting similar vulnerabilities in human consciousness. The concept of psychosymbiosis takes inspiration from nature's model of species helping each other survive and thrive, but reimagines this partnership within the landscape of human consciousness. Just as tiny fish provide cleaning services to larger marine life, mysterious entities might be subtly influencing our thought patterns while receiving something in return. Field observations indicate striking variations in human self-awareness that conventional psychological frameworks struggle to explain. While some individuals demonstrate remarkable insight into their own minds, others navigate life with a peculiar absence of introspection, suggesting they might be missing a crucial mental component. Analysis of neural imaging reveals intriguing patterns of brain activity that resemble two distinct systems operating in harmony. These readings parallel the signatures of symbiotic relationships found in nature, but manifesting within the complex territory of human cognition. Historical accounts describe sudden accelerations in human consciousness that defy the expected pace of evolution. The emergence of cave art, written communication, and abstract mathematical thinking appeared with unexpected swiftness, hinting at the arrival of an unseen catalytic force. Examination of the data suggests a mathematical consistency with this theory. If these theoretical beings exist in limited numbers, it would naturally result in the observed disparity of self-awareness among humans. Like an underwater cleaning station with too few service providers, some would inevitably go without this enhancement. Perhaps most fascinating is how these silent partners might operate entirely beneath our awareness, similar to how beneficial bacteria assist in digestion without conscious recognition. The only visible evidence would be the stark contrast between those who received this consciousness upgrade and those who continue operating with baseline awareness. An unsettling theory known as the Thetan Expungement emerged from leaked documents within certain spiritual organizations. Within these secretive groups, a disturbing practice allegedly targets those physical forms deemed too corrupted or damaged to house a spiritual essence. Our investigation revealed multiple instances where members mysteriously disappeared after closed-door meetings marked them as beyond repair. Their names vanished from official records, each letter meticulously crossed out with 3 parallel lines. Field observations indicate the existence of specialized facilities in isolated locations, possibly serving as sites for these expungements. Witness testimonies mention unusual patterns of activity under cover of darkness, with unmarked vehicles arriving in sync with specific phases of the moon. Documents obtained through legal channels detail elaborate vessel assessment protocols, where physical bodies underwent evaluation based on their spiritual conductivity. Historical accounts describe how individuals scoring below crucial thresholds received enigmatic annotations regarding mercy releases. Analysis of financial records uncovered substantial payments to crematorium services, typically occurring within days of members being classified as misaligned. These transactions wound through an intricate network of shell companies, all linked to a single post office box. Examination of recovered training materials revealed instructions for a procedure called terminal detachment, a methodical process using specific tones, lights, and ceremonial instruments to separate spirits from what they termed irredeemable vessels. These guides were deliberately printed on water-soluble paper designed to leave no trace. The concept of the true American experiment casts an unsettling shadow over our understanding of America's founding principles. Historical accounts from the 1780s and 1790s reveal cryptic patterns in the correspondence between our founding fathers, particularly in exchanges between Jefferson and Madison, that contained encoded references to mysterious overseers and something called the Grand Design. Our investigation uncovered evidence that the Continental Congress received extensive guidance from unnamed benefactors who supplied intricate frameworks for structuring the Constitution. These outlines included detailed contingency plans for events that wouldn't unfold for hundreds of years, displaying an inexplicable level of prescience. Examination of classified materials points to hidden societies operating within the early American government, maintaining steady contact with these benefactors throughout the 1800s. Their exchanges frequently mentioned progress reports and expressed satisfaction with current results, using language more fitting for a scientific experiment than national governance. Field observations of pivotal moments in American history reveal a disturbing pattern: government actions that directly violated constitutional principles. From the Alien and Sedition Acts to the Trail of Tears, from Japanese internment camps to the Patriot Act, each instance shattered fundamental rights. Yet rather than triggering intervention, these violations were seamlessly absorbed into the system. Archived materials indicate that during moments of constitutional crisis, key leaders reported experiencing inexplicable influences guiding their decisions. Lincoln spoke of receiving visions of the Republic's true path during the Civil War, while FDR described an unseen hand directing his response to the Great Depression. Analysis of the data suggests America's apparent failures may have been intentionally engineered to generate valuable information about human behavior under controlled conditions. Each crisis produced measurable, predictable social responses that could be documented and studied, as if the entire nation were serving as an elaborate laboratory for examining humanity. Our first encounter with the communal reality theory opens a fascinating window into how shared beliefs might shape our physical world. Observations indicate an intriguing pattern. Mass meditation events coincided with notable drops in crime rates across neighboring cities. During moments of intense global attention, like the tragic events of 9/11 or major international sports competitions, the Princeton Global Consciousness Project detected unexplainable anomalies in their random number generators. Ancient wisdom across cultures tells a compelling story. Examination of historical texts reveals recurring themes of collective spiritual practices wielding tangible power over the physical realm. In the rich traditions of Aboriginal Australia, we find the profound concept of dreamtime, a belief that reality itself emerged through the power of collective consciousness, sustained even now through shared storytelling and sacred ceremonies. Modern manifestations of this phenomenon continue to emerge. Analysis of the widely documented Mandela effect shows large groups of people sharing identical false memories, defying conventional explanation. Some researchers link these shared misconceptions to quantum mechanics, suggesting that when multiple minds focus intensely on a single outcome, they might influence probability at the subatomic level. Archived materials point to government interest in this phenomenon, with declassified documents revealing experimental programs that explored mass consciousness. These initiatives tested whether group visualization could affect weather patterns or shape political events. The results, while subtle, demonstrated measurable effects that amplified as the number of focused participants grew. The concept of fearless populace reveals an intriguing connection between gaming culture and resistance to government control. Our investigation revealed that major game studios have been purposefully crafting intense combat scenarios, though their motivation differs from what many might expect. Documents from the period show these design choices weren't meant to cause harm, but rather to counteract government fear tactics. Analysis of the data suggests developers embedded specific response patterns that help players stay composed during times of crisis. Field observations indicate this approach was validated through focus group testing, where researchers measured participants' anxiety levels during simulated emergency scenarios. Reports from multiple sources detail how several AAA game studios brought on former military psychologists with expertise in fear response training. These specialists contributed to designing game mechanics that authentically replicate combat situations while building psychological resilience rather than inducing trauma. Examination of the sites reveals an interesting pattern. Gamers who frequently play tactical shooters and survival horror games demonstrate significantly reduced fear responses when confronted with sudden noises or unexpected threats. Historical accounts describe this phenomenon as potential evidence that game developers are quietly preparing society to resist mass panic during staged events. Archived materials point to consistent anti-authoritarian themes within games from major publishers, alongside scenarios that encourage players to question official narratives. These elements suggest a deliberate strategy by developers to use psychological conditioning as a shield against government control. The peculiar phenomenon known as the Last Chosen begins with an intriguing pattern woven throughout human history. Throughout time, scattered accounts tell of individuals who survived events that defied all odds of human survival. Field observations indicate a recurring motif. Certain people lived through not just one, but multiple brushes with death. Take the remarkable case of Frain Selak, who emerged unscathed from 7 deadly accidents, including both plane and train crashes. His later lottery win only deepened the mystery surrounding these unlikely survivors. Historical accounts describe soldiers walking away from direct artillery strikes, only to later make pivotal decisions that changed the course of battles. Similar patterns emerged among scientists and humanitarians who survived repeated assassination attempts before completing their life-changing work. Examination of the sites reveals even more inexplicable cases where the very laws of physics seem to bend. Witnesses described people falling from fatal heights, landing without injury, or emerging unharmed from vehicles crushed beyond recognition. These incidents fuel speculation that some greater force preserves those with unfulfilled destinies. Archived materials point to another fascinating pattern. When multiple people pursued the same groundbreaking project, all but one would meet untimely ends through accidents or illness. The sole survivor invariably completed the work, leading researchers to propose they served as the final backup for that particular destiny. Analysis of the data suggests these weren't isolated incidents. Time and again, clusters of similar achievements were attempted simultaneously in different locations. While most attempts ended in failure or death, one person would consistently succeed against impossible odds, lending credence to the theory that reality maintains multiple candidates for history's crucial tasks. The concept of videogame recruitment emerged from unsettling connections between gaming and organized crime. Our investigation revealed that certain game publishers may have darker motives, creating titles that simultaneously desensitize players to violence while teaching fundamental skills useful in criminal activities. Field observations indicate a concerning pattern when military recruiters tested combat accuracy. Those with extensive first-person shooter experience demonstrated notably higher accuracy rates, a detail that apparently caught the attention of criminal organizations. Historical accounts describe how several gaming companies, later linked to Yakuza ownership, released titles in the late 1990s that bore striking similarities to actual criminal operations. Examination of the games reveals an even more disturbing layer: hidden messages embedded within specific gameplay sequences or activated at particular times. These subtle triggers paralleled known gang initiation rituals, particularly in games featuring urban environments or underground fighting circuits. Analysis of the data suggests more than mere coincidence in game design. The tutorial sections of certain titles matched actual weapons handling and tactical movement patterns used in organized crime with unsettling precision. These similarities extended beyond basic mechanics to include specific hand signals and code phrases documented in criminal communications. Archived materials point to another troubling connection. Several games contain detailed environmental layouts that later became targets of actual robberies. These gaming levels, disguised as standard mission maps, precisely documented security camera positions, guard patrol patterns, and optimal entry timing. Compiled reports demonstrate perhaps the most direct evidence. Criminal organizations adapted their training materials to incorporate gaming terminology. Traditional instructional language was replaced with familiar gaming terms like power-ups, checkpoints, and respawn locations, suggesting these games served as educational tools for potential recruits. Unloaded areas theory draws from the strange phenomenon of entering spaces that feel fundamentally wrong, places that seem to exist outside normal reality. The most common reports describe empty shopping malls, vacant parking lots, and deserted streets that should be bustling with activity, yet remain eerily still. Documents show these locations sharing distinct characteristics: fluorescent lights that emit an unusual hum, a complete absence of background noise, and time seemingly moving at an irregular pace. Those who experience these moments often report feeling as if they've stepped backstage of reality itself. Accounts describe similar experiences across different cultures and locations, with witnesses describing an overwhelming sense that they weren't meant to be there, as if they had wandered into a part of reality that wasn't finished rendering. Many report that attempts to document these spaces with cameras or phones result in corrupted files or inexplicably deleted footage. Field observations indicate a pattern in these occurrences, noting they frequently happen during transitional periods, late night to early morning, or during seasonal changes. Some theorize these moments represent buffer zones where the simulation struggles to maintain consistent reality parameters. Examination of the sites reveals that these unloaded zones typically resolve themselves when the person either leaves the area or experiences a moment of intense emotion or fear. Like a video game reloading a saved checkpoint, reality seems to snap back into its proper state, leaving only a lingering sense of displacement. The connection between humanity's oldest burial customs and mysterious underground entities forms the foundation of what researchers call the ancient burial theory. Across recorded history, the practice of earth burial spans virtually every human culture, emerging simultaneously among isolated populations who had no contact with one another. Field observations indicate a disturbing pattern. Over 100,000 people vanish without trace annually worldwide, with a significant number of these disappearances concentrated around cave systems and historically significant burial grounds. Analysis of deep ground-penetrating radar surveys reveals extensive networks of tunnels and chambers far beneath known cave systems, seemingly connecting ancient burial sites. Historical accounts describe early human cave paintings that depict tall, elongated figures rising from the earth to collect offered bodies. What makes these discoveries particularly unsettling is their appearance across continents, from European cave systems to South American burial sites, showing nearly identical entities despite the vast distances separating these cultures. Examination of ancient burial texts uncovers repeated warnings about the consequences of improper burial rites. These texts speak of hunters below who would seek living tributes instead. These ominous cautions appear not only in Egyptian hieroglyphs and Sumerian tablets, but echo through Native American oral traditions, each describing flesh-hungry beings dwelling in the deep earth. Reports demonstrate a pattern in modern missing persons cases where victims disappeared near historical graveyards. In these locations, investigators discovered unusual ground disturbances and tunnel-like formations nearby. Contemporary cemetery workers share accounts of strange sounds and vibrations emanating from deep underground, particularly during new burials. Archived materials point to a fascinating shift in prehistoric human practices. Our ancestors initially favored sky burial and cremation, yet within just a few centuries, all continents mysteriously switched to earth burial. This sudden global transformation suggests a shared traumatic event or discovery that forever altered humanity's approach to dealing with their dead.